Reaktor is a virtual environment used by musicians and sound designers to build instruments, effects, and sequences. It can be launched and operated by itself or as a plugin with your sequencing host. Reaktor comes with its own instruments and users have access to an extensive online library holding over 3,000 instruments. To make sure your sound card is working with Reaktor, select File, Audio and MIDI settings. Use the Device menu to select the appropriate sound card. Select the type of driver you wish to use. On a Windows operating system, ASIO is commonly used, whilst Core Audio is typical on a computer running Mac OS X. Under the Routing tab, it is possible to assign Reaktor's input and output channels with corresponding channels on your sound card. Different MIDI settings can be configured under the MIDI tab. This will vary depending on what is installed on your computer. Let's start by adding some factory instruments. Using the sideplane view, select the Factory tab, open the Instruments folder, followed by the Synthesizer folder. Let's drag 2 instruments into the ensemble. Close the sideplane. In Reaktor, we use 2 views when we are building our instrument. We have a panel view, which allows us to see the surface of our instrument. The structure view allows us to see the components that make the instrument work. We can split the screen to display those 2 views at the same time. It is also possible to change the orientation of these 2 screens. It is also possible to display the structure view on each split. The spanner icon allows us to move the components in the panel view. Under the spanner is the MIDI Learn feature. Let's go back to the structure view. We have different layers in the structure of our instrument. The audio outputs are usually found on the highest layer. If we double-click on Macro, we move down a layer and view the components inside. By double-clicking on an empty space within that macro, we can move up a layer. We can bookmark positions within the structure to work more effectively. This is done by using the drop-down menu in the top left-hand corner and selecting Store as Bookmark. The bookmarks are given the same name as the macro, and you can navigate between bookmarks by using the same drop-down menu. We can add components to our instrument by right-clicking on an empty space. An ensemble may contain various instruments. These instruments are made up with different macros. Built-in modules can usually be found with the macros. Core cells are the lowest level components. Let's take a look at the sideplane. On the top left-hand side is the Browser tab. This allows us easy access to different content. The Player button can be used to browse for complete instruments, should you have any installed. The Factory button allows us to load factory instruments. The User button allows us quick access to our own components. And the Disk button is used to browse different locations on our disk. Next to the Browser tab is the Snapshot tab. Here we can store and recall different snapshots for our instruments. These are managed in banks. If we click on the Snapshot Morphing and Random Disclosure tab, we can morph between different presets. We can also randomize the controls of the instrument. The next tab along is the panel set. Here we can decide which panels we wish to be visible for the instruments that we have loaded in our ensemble. We can create presets for different combinations. For example, we can create a preset to display all our instruments, a combination of different instruments, or just one instrument. This will be useful during performances. All instruments will remain loaded within the ensemble and will still have an impact on the CPU, even if they are not visible. On the far right-hand side is the Properties tab. This is where we make more detailed decisions with respect to the different components. At the bottom of the screen, you can find Reaktor's Player Recorder bar. The output of the player is sent directly to the first two audio-in modules. Right-click and select Built-in Module, Terminal, and Import. The recorder will record audio sent to the first two audio output modules. We can monitor the strain on the CPU by looking at the CPU meter in the top right-hand part of the screen. Here we also find the Audio Engine button. This provides a quick way to cut off noise should there be a problem with your instrument. To the left is a MIDI meter, which allows us to monitor outgoing and incoming MIDI signals. Next to that, we have meters and faders for our audio input and output. The Hints button will allow us to view information about a particular component by hovering over it. By hovering over a wire, we are able to view different values passing through it. The internal MIDI clock can be controlled using the play and stop buttons. It is also possible to change the BPM by clicking and dragging or by typing in a new value.